So let's dive into this next short take. This next short take is going to be about the show Snowfall. It's going to be on episodes 9 and 10. I'm going to be giving a review. So let's get into it. But first, I want you guys to hit the like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the channel, show your support. I have about 60 plus episodes on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple, and about 20 plus episodes on YouTube. So I want to just dive into the episode, but I want to give my thoughts on shows like this as a whole. So what I liked about Snowfall was how realistic it came off. I mean, it started in the 80s with the crack epidemic, the CIA's involvement, and also the great acting. I mean, it was phenomenal. Some of the quotes and also some of the captivating scenes and the entertaining situations in there. I liked those. But what I didn't like about the show was the aftermath. I mean, people, they really wanted a happy ending for Franklin. In fact, in my opinion, I think that Franklin, he got what he deserved, which was a mental prison. Okay. Franklin, he was a drug dealer and a murderer. And he was selfish in the end. But I'm not going to dive into that right now. But when it came to his situation, he got what he deserved. I mean, I'm even seeing people create a GoFundMe page for Franklin's next re-up because Franklin's last moments didn't happen the way that they wanted it to. I mean, get it together. And what people have to ask themselves is why are we so much known for what we're able to do in entertainment as far as sports, acting, and music, and how great we are at destroying the community? Why are we so much known for that? I mean, Avi said it best. He told Franklin, you could have been anything that you wanted to be. And Franklin could have been. He could have been a lawyer, could have been an inventor, an entrepreneur, a carpenter, a mechanic, a legal realtor. But he chose drug dealer. So it's only right that most of his friends and the people who were involved got death or prison. It's just facts. And all Franklin did in the end was just repeat the cycle. His son is going to be fatherless, just like he was fatherless. In the end, it all started with Alton and Sissy. If Franklin had his father and his mother in his life, and there was no separation there, and Franklin was just, a regular person, he would basically have the chance to be whatever that he wanted to be. And remember, Franklin, he was smart, but he chose the wrong path. And in the end, it wasn't really worth it. So what really needs to be asked is, are you worth it? Instead of just you trying to take a shortcut. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be tough, but you might as well just take all the steps you could get. Because in the end, it's going to be you on top of the mountain. Because at the end of the day, what we got from Franklin is exactly what needed to be in the show. Him repeating the cycle. I mean, if anything, another happy ending that probably could have happened in the show, instead of him getting his money and being able to ride off into the sunset, would have been Franklin being murdered or ended up committing suicide because of him coming to the realization of what he was doing to the community all along. Because what he was doing was destroying it at the end of the day. And when it comes to somebody like 50 Cent, can he do any better than Power, BMF, Get Rich or Die Trying? Can he do any better? Because at the end of the day, what we're really being fed is bad quality, bad quality in life. It's just the facts. You got to ask yourself, why are we so much known for what we're able to do in entertainment? But yet, there's people out there who are glorifying it. And what I'm waiting on is for a series or a show on the depiction of Hannibal Barca, a North African general who nearly destroyed the Roman Empire. In fact, the military, they're still using his tactics to this day. And hey, why don't you just throw me in there as an extra for coming up with the idea? Remember, we're much more than what is displayed in entertainment. We don't need sports. We don't need music. We don't need acting. We have this. Remember that. We're smart. So at the end of the day, I did like the show. But the question is why is it that every time that we are depicted at our best selves, it has to be in the worst version of ourselves. As far as us being poor or in bad situations in movies or just destroying the community. I mean, even Denzel in Training Day, what was he? What was he? He was a bad cop. I'll tell you what we probably should have been in was Gladiator or Spartacus. Those are the types of movies we should have been in. But yet, we're being reduced to being drug dealers. So ask yourself why. So that's my perspective on that. So I'm going to dive into the show, episode 9. So I think that Franklin, he kind of had it all wrong. He definitely should have had better tactics as far as torture. Okay. If I was Franklin and, the money was at the grasp of my hands in terms of me capturing the CIA officer, he definitely should have broken some bones, maybe do the wet towel method, and then got around to Veronique's situation, which it did work, but only for a moment, because at the end of the day, Franklin, he didn't get any money. I was befuddled with why there wasn't enough tactics in terms of torture for Franklin to try to get his money. I mean, what he was doing was Russian roulette, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And as far as Teddy, he finally told the truth to Franklin, talking about he owned him. And, Franklin, he started tearing up because, all he just wanted to do was just get just a little bit of respect, and he didn't get it. Okay. He also felt betrayed by Teddy, which is obvious because Franklin, he kind of viewed Teddy as a partner, a friend. So that also caught Franklin off guard. And that scene was great acting as well. I like that scene a lot because, you know, Teddy, he told him the truth. He told him why to his face. He said, I own you. That's what he said. And, you know, Franklin, he definitely did feel some type of way about that. And, you know, Veronique, I mean, she was just trying to, stay strong and stuff like that. And it definitely was something that was a good scene during that time. And the next thing that was interesting was if Franklin really wanted to get the money or something like that, he probably should have had Teddy do a transfer before he even got to the CIA agent. Maybe about 10 mil to reaffirm that he's going to actually do the transfer. And then on top of that, another thing that was crazy was Franklin, he decided to bring his mother over there. I mean, she ended up talking to the Russian, having a conversation with him, which wasn't really needed. And then he ended up talking to Teddy, and Teddy was able to get into her head talking about Alton being alive. And the next thing that happened was, you know, Teddy and Franklin, they're in the car and they're on the way. And Franklin is getting a look from Teddy in the car, basically with the emotions of, you're really going to let me get out of this and get away over some money. Even though as soon as you let me go, you're going to be killed. You can't trust them. So that was definitely crazy too, in my opinion. All right, just seeing that moment of Franklin and Teddy in the car, and Franklin really thinking that stuff was going to be sweet for him, that he was going to go off into the sunset and things were going to be all right for him with the money. And on the way there to the telephone, and where Franklin, Teddy, and the mother were all meeting the CIA agent that was working with Teddy, I thought that everybody else in the crowd was a CIA agent because everybody was wearing sunglasses. It was far too suspicious. And in the middle of Franklin getting ready to get his money, and basically Teddy is on the bank trying to get the wire transfer done. The mother, she goes up to him and then she asks him about Alton, completely being selfish and completely just caring about someone who was definitely long gone. I can't believe she even bought the story in the first place for the show. And when it came to Teddy, he got himself killed because he was arrogant. That's why he died, because of his arrogance. Instead of him just saying, hold on, just wait, give me a second, let me just get this transfer done. He told her, I shot him twice. He felt his body die cold. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he told her. And then next thing you know, Franklin's mother, out of selfishness, killed Teddy. Now, the reason why I think it was selfish was because she could have waited 2 whole minutes to do that. Okay? She could have waited, but no. She was thinking about Alton and not about what's right next to her son being alive. Okay? And in the back of her mind, she shouldn't have been that gullible to begin with, especially with the fact of the Russian lying to her in terms of the care for Franklin and the family. That ended up being completely untrue, lied right to her face. And then she ends up believing Teddy, somebody who she was after the whole time. And then on top of that, Alton, he wasn't a good dad to begin with. I mean, he was basically one of those fathers that we hear about all the time when it comes to professional sports. The father is a deadbeat. He's gone. Okay, he's not there throughout the son's process of growing up, and then he ends up becoming an athlete or extremely successful. Then the next thing you know, here comes Franklin's dad, comes up out of nowhere, dressed spiffy and talking proper, trying to get a handout. That's exactly the way that Franklin's father came back into his life. And Franklin, he had not seen his father in maybe about, you know, 12 to 15 years. I mean, he definitely seen him in passing as far as him being in the car, but he was not a father figure in his life. It was Uncle Jerome, which is why Franklin took his death personally. But Sissy was holding on to that. And Franklin's father left the son and Sissy herself. So she decided to be selfish and basically kill whatever little hope that Franklin had left. She killed Franklin's hope for him to be able to go on in greener pastures. And then, she gets arrested, and, you know, obviously the other guy who was the CIA officer, he left immediately. I mean, he walked out of there so fast. He disappeared so quickly. And, he probably was like, I can't associate myself with this type of situation. This is a former CIA officer. If this comes back on me, I'm done. So it made sense for him to leave. And then Franklin, he was in distraught. I mean, he literally was trying to get back on the phone with the bank wire transfer at the time. I mean, he was really trying to hold that phone. Excuse me, he's still here. He's still here. No, and Teddy is long gone, long gone. So I felt like that was pretty funny. And another thing that was crazy was Franklin did not see this coming. Out of all of the great type of tactics that he had, the smarts that he had, and the street awareness that he did not see this coming. In terms of his mother acting overly emotional and costing him, especially after Veronique and Franklin had both basically said right in front of the mother, it's me and her, in terms of Franklin and Veronique trying to, create the family and stuff like that. And Franklin, he didn't read his mother's emotions during that time. So that's actually what got him, caught up. And also, if the mother didn't come, I would say this, he definitely would have died, because Franklin, he thought that he would just walk off his separate ways. And Teddy killed his father. Okay? Teddy killed his dad. But when it came to Franklin killing Teddy's dad, Teddy did not see any type of, understanding. Okay? And the crazy thing about Teddy is he quote unquote hated his dad, wanted to have his father accept him. And his father was mad about his brother dying. But the thing is Teddy, he just could not help it. Couldn't help it. And that's actually what cost him his life. He probably should have given Franklin back his money. He should have taken the advice of his former girlfriend and former fiance at the moment before his death. So that wasn't smart either. In the Aunt Louie situation, she decided to keep Detective Buckley alive after what he didn't do to try to help Jerome. Now, we all know that Uncle Jerome died because of Aunt Louie. She kept Detective Buckley alive for whatever reason. I mean, he basically went behind a tree to go try and smoke some more crack. And then she takes his card, stuff like that, and then she goes off. And the next thing that was kind of interesting, which that everybody was kind of rooting for, was Gustavo. Everybody wanted a happy ending for Gustavo. I mean, he had everybody against him, from Teddy to the KGB to the DEA to the CIA. It was just crazy, all right? And it was a miracle that he was able to get away. And, Franklin, he was just like, in shock that it even happened himself, because, he was saying, oh, so in the end, as if, he's going to be next to be free from everything and be straight. But you know, also he did end up getting away. And, it's still possible that, you know, his girl and his kids still could be caught by the feds in the first place, despite them getting the passports and the millions of dollars to go. They still might have been caught trying to go away. I would not be shocked if that was to happen. Now, as far as episode 10, I'm going to dive into that. So, Franklin, he had been avoiding drinking throughout the whole time, all the way up until that situation happened. I mean, I understand how traumatic it was. Okay. I mean, he had the money, tried to walk away, and then he gets it taken away. And then when the opportunity presents itself for him to at least get half of the money back, it dies right in front of him. The money is gone, and everything is just falling in circles around him. So the next thing you know, he turns. So the next thing you know, he starts to think irrational. He doesn't want to at least leverage the KGB for a few million. But no, it ends up backfiring, and then, it ends up being the worst for Franklin in the end. But to me, I just think that, Franklin, he did everything else for everybody else around him. Okay. I mean, when Leon shot Scully's daughter, he did everything in his power to help Leon stay alive. When Aunt Louie wanted to get away from the grasp of the club owner, he did everything to try to help her to get out of it. And then Aunt Louie ended up owning the club. I mean, he helped Uncle Jerome get a shop. He also helped his mother get into the real estate business. But nobody wanted to show any love for Franklin in his worst times. I mean, he was given left and right in terms of help for his people, for his inner circle. But for everybody else trying to return the favor, no, it didn't happen. So everybody turned on him. And when Franklin asked Leon for the $3 million, he basically said no. And in my opinion, I felt like that was wrong. Maybe Franklin should have gotten at least $1 million or $500,000. Because at the end of the day, he definitely did help everybody live the lifestyle that they were living. And as far as Leon and him going back to Africa off of the, strength of Sissy talking about, you're the only person who came up right and stuff like that. First of all, I don't know why Leon left Africa. He left Africa for more drama, okay? Because in my opinion, you can't save everybody when it comes to that life. And especially if you're trying to get out of it. Leon, he had good enough money for him to stay well off in Africa for a long time. So, in my opinion, I don't think that Leon should have ever left Africa from the beginning. But he left and then he came back. And basically, Franklin, he meets up with the mother to talk to her about why did she do it. And the mother said nothing, which was wrong, giving him more silence, more time for him to drink. And then basically, he went back over there and, he cursed her out and stuff like that. And, he was trying to at least start out with trying to own the home in terms of the real estate property that she had left. He was still trying to, do whatever he could to get away from being, broke. She didn't say anything. And like I said, I do believe that a lot of this is on her because she basically allowed for him to continue to sell drugs. She didn't stop it. She didn't say, no, don't do that anymore. She allowed for it to keep going because he was making money. And I understand that, he was doing it to, have something to fall back on in terms of the real estate stuff. But it's still wrong altogether. It's wrong in how you're getting it. And a lot of this falls on her. The next thing that was definitely, crazy was when Franklin tried to choke out Veronique. Now, he did not, press his hands on her or nothing like that, but, he definitely was establishing that it's definitely going to be a huge problem between him and her from now on, especially since, she did go behind his back. But I mean, she was trying to help the family and her to stay afloat for the future of the baby and herself and, the marriage and stuff like that. And basically, I mean, she ended up leaving after that situation, which was understandable because, he was drunk. He put that on himself. Okay? That's what happened there. I mean, I didn't really like that scene at all. And the next thing you know, I mean, Franklin's son would be possibly repeating the cycle because the son will be growing up without a father. Now, I don't care if it's in a different country, but at the end of the day, a son does need his dad in his life. It's just facts. It's facts. Now, I do think that, mothers, they are necessary. Of course they are. But a son definitely does need the father. So, although I definitely do think that Franklin was somebody who wasn't in his right mind mentally, and maybe she probably should have, you know, took maybe about a few weeks away from Franklin and then came back, you know, with her reasonings and stuff like that for what happened, let him sober up. And then maybe she probably could have, and then possibly she could have ended up with Franklin, and then they possibly could have lived on happily ever after. And then Franklin, he was, brought information about Peaches. Now that whole situation was funny, in my opinion, because you know Peaches. I mean, he was still trying to, kill Franklin, and he only had $12,000. I mean, all he had to do was unlock the safe. The Peaches, he wasn't there mentally at all. And then Franklin, he killed the locksmith guy, the guy who was going to unlock the thing for him. And, that was just, crazy because the locksmith guy, he was innocent. He had a family, you know, and he had kind of his whole life ahead of him. And then he just runs into unforeseen circumstances. So that was just crazy. And then, he just ends up with 12,000, which is actually what he started out with, $12,000. So he felt terrible about that. He ends up staying in the abandoned house because Sissy did not want to relinquish the ownership over to Franklin. And then Leon comes back from Africa, talks to Franklin, trying to, restore some things, maybe buy the house and buy off the eviction and stuff like that. Franklin, he wasn't having it. Franklin, he actually told Leon, I'm happy that you came out the way you came out. I thought it was funny, the fact that Franklin was calling Leon Yo-Yo, and he also made some jokes about his wife going back to her first love. So I thought that was kind of funny too. And as far as, you know, Franklin or whatever, it was no saving him in the end. And he ended up, repeating history of becoming a drunk just like his father. And basically from now on, what people are going to think is Franklin is crazy. And the CIA, they're not going to go after him because he's a drunk. He's not in his right mind mentally. And when his father got on the radio and he gave his facts about the CIA being involved with the crack epidemic, no one actually believed him except for the people who were around the city. So it was basically just rumored to be untrue in the end. And that's the same thing that happened with Franklin. And that's it on my short take on episodes 9 and 10, as well as my thoughts on shows like this as a whole. Like I said, if anything, a show definitely should be, out there. The depiction of Hannibal Barca, who was Black, the gladiators who were Black, Something like that would definitely change the outlook on how we view ourselves, because it's been a lot of whitewashing with history. And that's a lot of things that people don't want to admit. So, and it's also smart because at the end of the day, you know, what we see in front of us can ultimately make our perspective either worse or better. And a lot of the stuff that we see is on television, it's on a screen. So when you see Gladiator being acted by Russell Crowe, it was an awesome movie. But we all know that it definitely should have been acted by Denzel instead of Russell Crowe. And when you see Spartacus being acted by another person of, you know, white, it should have been acted by Sidney Poitier. But instead, what we get on a normal basis is O-Dog or Ice Cube from Friday. So, in my opinion, I think there should be more shows or movies like that instead of what we've been seeing the whole time. I mean, everybody, they want to make a jump about Cleopatra being, black and from Egypt and stuff like that, and how people are doing movies on that. And there's a huge uproar about it because of, you know, how she's being depicted right now. Instead of just allowing for people to create their own narrative, just do something on the truth. I mean, a lot of people, they like to talk about Cleopatra, but in my opinion, I think that other things should be spoken about in terms of our history as a whole. So we're much more than the narrative of slavery. I mean, we was all over Europe, which is something that nobody wants to talk about. So that's my thoughts on the show Snowfall, episodes 9 and 10. And remember, let's not be inches, feet, meters, nor yards. Let's be miles ahead. Have a good one.